Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever the hell you guys are. This is Alex Ditton. I'm with Underground Noise Webzine. This is webisode number 28. Please hit that subscribe button in case you haven't. Find me on facebook.com/undergroundnoise420. I'm here with Lukas Haidinger from the band Profanity.
Hey there.
Welcome, Lukas. How you doing today, man?
I'm fine. Actually, I'm feeling really good. I just got my third shot like a few hours ago, and everything's fine so far. But apart from that, everything is going really smooth. And yeah, feeling good so far.
Very cool. First off, I would like to ask you, who are your musical influences?
Playing in Profanity or in general?
Either or.
Goes goes way back, of course. As a kid, listening to stuff like starting off with Deep Purple and that stuff. But when playing music, I'm talking about death metal or something. I would say it's mostly Florida stuff like D-Side, Obituary. And of course, then the New York guys, Suffocation is very important influence also for Tom of Profanity. And I listen to a lot of thrash actually. I like most death metal guys, I think. For that, like the German thrash stuff, the fast stuff mainly, Creator, Sodom, then the Canadians, Razor, Sacrifice, that stuff, or of course, then also Sepultura. I think these were the main influences for me when I started playing metal. It was like extreme thrash and old school death metal, some Swedish stuff, of course. Then European grindcore scene I like a lot. Stuff like Nasum, Rotten Sound. That's the stuff I listen to on a regular basis, and it's also become an influence. And apart from that, hardcore punk, the classic stuff, everything that's fast, actually. And yeah, so when playing this kind of music, that would be, I think, the main influences.
Sounds really cool. This album, Fragments of Solace, is extremely bruising, by far one of my favorite albums from this year.
Oh man, that's such a pleasure to hear. What should I say? It's just really great to see people enjoy it. We had quite a lot of work with that album, recording, mixing, and everything, and making sure it comes out and it works out the way that we intended. And hearing that is, of course, it's worth the hassle and everything. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. I was going to ask you, what song did you find to be your favorite off the album? My favorite's the first one, Disputed Territory.
Yeah, that's an awesome song. For me, I mean, it's always hard to tell. When you finish an album, you see it as a whole and everything. But I would say for me, it's probably Progenitor of the Blaze. I like that melodic double bass part, and it's just, it's like the complete record for me in a nutshell a little bit. I also like Towards the Sun a lot, but if I would pick a favorite, I'd probably say Progenitor of the Blaze. But then again, I didn't write the songs, but only the bass parts and the production side of everything. So it's only what I can say, considering that topic.
How long did it take to complete the album?
Let me think. From recording until the mix was finished, I think it was like half a year, because there was lockdowns and everything, and we ran into a few complications, like they shut down the borders, they closed the borders between Germany and Austria in the lockdowns, and we scheduled to record the drums here at my studio, but it wasn't possible because they couldn't enter Austria, where my studio is located. And so we had to reschedule to record the drums in a different studio, and that it took us quite some time. As when talking about the songwriting, that goes back quite a bit longer, but I can't really say how long exactly. But only speaking about the actual work of the album from recording to the finished master, that was I think about half a year or something. But as I said, with all these obstacles we had because of the pandemic, and the biggest obstacle for sure was the closed border. That was shitty. When the border got open again, the guys immediately headed to my studio for reamping and stuff, and then I could go ahead with the mix.
Now you're the bassist and the backing vocalist of the band, right?
Yeah, that's right. I play bass and I do some vocals on the album also.
What type of bass do you like to use for your sound?
I like to use jazz basses like that one here. So classic jazz basses, not Fender though. It's a Japanese brand called FGN. They are not that well known, although probably most musicians in their career had several FGN instruments in their hands, because it's one of the big manufacturers in Japan. They built all the Ibanez Prestige series, and they built the Japanese runs for Jackson and Fender. That's why they have a lot of experience with these kinds of instruments. And I got two of these. And I think for the sound that I play in Profanity, which is like slightly distorted, but lots of top end, lots of bass, and rather scooped out in the mids, like a little bit like a funk sound, but more distortion. I think for this kind of sound, the jazz bass is perfect. I'm not too much into humbuckers. I'm playing another FGN bass with an EMG humbucker in the bridge position in Profanity live, and also used that one on the record. But I split the humbucker, so I had two single coils at the classic jazz bass sound. That is what works best for me. I tried different stuff, and so like Ibanez makes some awesome basses, Yamaha making awesome basses too. But whenever it comes to humbuckers, I feel like it's like a little too much in the lower mids, So I prefer the single coil sound. That's why I'm playing these bad boys here.
That's very cool. How did you hear about joining Profanity?
Hey, Tom wrote me a message back then. That was as easy as it. A Facebook message, actually. He said, "Yeah, we're looking for a bass player. What do you think?" And I was like, "Yeah, I could imagine that would be a lot of fun." Little did I know how much work that would be, because that was to date the most challenging stuff I ever had to play until then. Was really thrown a little bit into cold water. I played technical music, of course, before, but not to that extent, which Profanity is, which is, if we're being honest, way over the top, But yeah, I figured it out, and it's been a hell of a ride so far.
I can imagine it would be challenging coming up with technical death metal like you guys do.
Yes, it is. And in the beginning, they it was pretty funny. They sent me one song and the Suffocation cover to learn. I made a video for the song Melting, which was from that EP, from the Hatred Hell Within EP. And they sent me guitar profiles because otherwise that wouldn't be possible at all, They're just going by ear. And I learned that song and sent them a video. It didn't take me very long. And then they sent me said, "Oh, awesome." And then they sent me the really, really technical stuff. And then I was like, "Oh, what the fuck do you guys want from me?" And yeah, but I hung in there and managed to do it. But yeah, it's totally different kind of monster compared to I play also in a death grind band, which is I would say primitive compared to what Profanity does. So it's a whole different type of work ethics you have to put in there. I mean, when we got like a really long and technical song like the single from the last album, it was Who Lives Stays, exactly. I think it took me several weeks to learn that song to the point where it really, where I could play it fluently. That was new to me. That it would take me like a month or something to learn a song. But well, it's like, it's like 10 songs in one. If you have like a song like this one.
When I first jammed on this album, I thought of 4 bands. I thought of Obscura, Necrophagus, Suffocation, and Decrepit Birth.
Yeah.
Out of any, go ahead. Sorry.
When I heard Profanity's last album for the first time, my initial thought was also Decrepit Birth. I think this is which comes the closest. Necrophagist, of course. I mean, for every tech death band, this is a kind of landmark you will have to be tested against. This is always going to come up. And of course, there are parallels, but I think melody-wise, also the kind of scales that Tom is using is pretty different from what Necrophagists are doing, and also Obscura. They're more on the classical side, and as far as when I'm analyzing Tom's riffs, it sounds a little more jazzy to me. But now speaking only of the scales and the kind of harmonies he's using. And with Decrepit Birth, I think it's a little more similar. Which was the fourth one? The fourth?
Suffocation.
Suffocation, yeah, of course. Suffocation, huge influence to Profanity and to probably every death metal band which gravitates more to the brutal side of things. Yeah, definitely. So Suffocation and Decrepit Birth, I would say absolute yes. For Necrophagist, sure. I don't think you could compare us too much to Obscura. I think they're way more melodic, way more catchy, whereas Profanity is, at least to my ears, mayhem and insanity, a little also more on the brutal death side.
Are there any bands that you haven't toured with that you've always wanted to tour with?
An infinite amount of bands I would love to tour that I haven't toured with. I'd love to tour with, I don't know, with Slayer. That's never gonna happen, I'd love to tour with if we stay with bands that it would be possible to tour with. I'd say D-Side. I would really love to tour with D-Side just because I really love the music. I'd love to tour with Obituary because these guys seem a lot of fun to tour with and to hang out with. And of course, Suffocation would be probably our number one wish to once tour with. Maybe it happens someday. Tom is friends with Terence, and they're chatting from time to time, and we tried to set up something once, and but health issues came in between. So this might be something that if we're really lucky, that might come up in the future.
Now, aside from death metal, I was watching one of your Facebook videos where you're doing slap bass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that something that you do in your free time, or you do it as a professional?
No, I'm doing it in my free time. I'm doing session jobs for other bands from time to time, but that's only metal bands. I like to listen to funk and funky jazz and a lot of old blues music and stuff. And with the funky thing, that's where the slapping comes in. I enjoy this stuff, but I wouldn't consider myself as a funk player. I think I would fail miserably playing in like a real funk band or comparable or jazz. I'm a metal dude, totally. So Yeah, this is just for fun, just as I'm listening to punk rock and or 90s hardcore, I also listen to some funk and stuff, that's just for fun.
Speaking of punk, the band called Bad Religion just had a small tour.
Yeah.
Johnny Polini from Mortal Decay went to go see him. I was like, dude, did they play No Control? He's like, look through the pictures, you'll see a video. They must have played No Control like 5 times that night.
Yeah, man, I love Bad Religion. It's an awesome band. Yeah, nothing to say about this. It's just a great band, great singer, great music. I really enjoy this band.
Yeah, I like those guys and the Ramones and NoFX, MXP.
NoFX, of course. Also for bass players, it's a must, to listen to NoFX. It's a very good bass player and good bass arrangements. And probably when it comes to like California punk, this is probably the most sophisticated band in that genre, I think.
Yeah, they're pretty complicated, I think. They're really fast and
Yeah,
pretty aggressive.
and super songwriting is just in your face and it sticks in your head. That's this is I think what this kind of music, at least when it comes to California punk, is about. It's catchy and in your face, and it's just fun to listen to and fun to grab some beers and
Have a party.
Yeah, that's it. It's party music.
Party music, I guess you could call it. What's your favorite thing about being a musician, Lukas?
Making music. But apart from the obvious, I really enjoy socializing with other people when we're on the road. When I'm playing festivals, I like to get to know the other musicians and then have like nerdy gear talk and everything. But I also like to go out and into the on the festival area and just have a chat with not necessarily fans, because most of the people don't recognize me anyway. So I'm just there and having some beers with people I've never met before and talking about metal. This is my favorite pastime activity, is listening to metal and talking about it. So, and maybe having a beer alongside that thing. So that is one of the things that I like most about playing a band and making music. A lot of people would say traveling, but the traveling itself can be quite tedious, when you're in the car for 10 hours or whatever. And then you're in some awesome city and you don't even have the time to check it out. I would rather say that's a downside to things. If you like have a day off and can really go explore, of course that's really nice. But if you're like not really big band with fly-in shows or nightliner every time, then you don't have a lot of that opportunity to do so. So I'd say playing the music, listening to it, talking about it with other people, socializing and having fun, getting to know new people that share the same puerile love for this music, I think is the most important.
When you have a day off from tour, what do you usually like to do in your free time?
Then I actually go explore the city where we are, checking out restaurants, checking out sites, of course, but also mainly connecting with people there, seeing what living is all about, where we're at this place where we just happened to have a day off. This can work better or worse sometimes. Sometimes you have a day off in some village where there's not a lot to see. Well, then maybe see a little nature, or still you can have, like, if you have a day off, and the next day you can at least do a little more partying the day before and hanging out with the other bands and extend the party a little more. So because most of the time you have to go to bed pretty early. I wouldn't say like at 10 or something, because it's impossible to playing the show, but like at 12 or 1, and don't make too much party and everything, because you don't want to be totally hungover on the next day. And when we have a day off, you can extend the partying thing and have talk to the other bands a little longer and have time for each other to socialize. But on the day off itself, I would say exploring as much as possible without, you know, without getting too exhausted, you know, you're not hiking up a mountain or something, but whatever's possible.
Wanted to ask you also, who came up with the band name?
That's a good question. That would be a question for Tom, because that was before my time. Profanity. I actually have to say, I don't know. I could imagine it was the old bass player, Martin, but still, I have to admit, I don't know.
That's one that's up in the air. I'll have to ask Tom about that for sure.
Yeah, you'll
This
know.
This next question is a bit touchy for some people, but I ask it anyway. If you could bring back, say, one or two dead musicians, who would it be?
Yeah, I think every tech death musician would immediately say Chuck Schuldiner, and I'm very eager to say that myself. I think so. Let's take Chuck Schuldiner, and for the second musician, that's hard. That's not a decision to make lightly, you know. If I really can bring somebody back, or it should be worth it, you know. So I'd say probably, I would not say Randy Rhoads, because he would before he died, he said he would quit playing rock and roll, so he wouldn't have too much of wouldn't make too much of a sense for me then. But I guess one of the older guys. We don't know what would happen to Slayer if Jan Hanneman would still be alive. But then on the other hand, it looks like it's more Tom Araya who wanted to stop. So that's really hard. I'm just gonna come up with the next one that comes up for me and stick with that one, and that would be Johann Sebastian Bach.
Okay, I don't think I'm familiar with that name.
Oh, that's Johann Sebastian Bach. He was a classical composer.
Oh, Bach, yeah.
Yeah. Bach is the German way to pronounce it. Yeah, okay. I would say Bach, because I think this guy is more or less the real founding father of metal, I think.
That's really cool. I'll have to look up some of his music again, because it's been a while since I've heard some of it.
Especially the organ stuff, because that's where the mean and heavy melodies are at, you know.
Are you familiar with the band called Odious Mortem?
Yes, I heard the name, and Tom sent me something recently, I think, but I haven't yet to check it out, actually.
I think you would really dig it.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to write a note to check this out. The next time I'm gonna be on a train soon, so I have a lot of time to listen to music.
I got to see them in 2006 with Deeds of Flesh and also Decrepit Birth.
Oh yeah, that's already an insane package.
Yeah, so, 15 years ago.
Damn, awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
I was interviewing Anthony Trapani one night, and I showed him the poster. I was like, "Look, dude, I still got the poster."
Yeah, nice.
Like, looks like you kept it intact. I said, "Yeah, I sure did." And then I showed him the set list from Decrepit Birth that night.
Yeah, that's great. That sounds like great memories.
Oh, it definitely is. I can still remember it this very day. Showing up to the venue, watching Odious Mortem playing hacky sack in the parking lot.
That's nice, yeah.
I'm thinking to myself, people still hacky sack?
I don't think so. I haven't seen anybody hacky sack for a long, long time. I think actually not since I left school. I think that was the last time, or maybe on some shows afterwards. But it's probably was in the early 2000s, latest.
Back to this album, Fragments of Solace. Just like I told you before, extremely bruising and very amazing. Start to finish, I've listened to it like 20 times in a row.
Awesome.
Until the batteries finally died. So what I wanted to ask you, which song did you find to be the most technical?
The most technical. Well, the one song I was screaming when I tracked the bass was The Autopsy. But that was also because it was the first song I tracked, and it's just super fast, you know. And that was super shitty in the beginning, and I was, oh damn, like after like the fourth time trying one riff and fucking it up. But now we've played it a couple of times live, and it's actually not the most technical. I would say. Let me have a look. Just get it back in my mind. Yeah, the Ceremony of the Rotten is really, really, really hard because you know, I ain't got the bigger problems with how fast runs are or something. I can play fast runs and everything, but the hard thing for me is always memorizing. And this is where Profanity are really, really mean, because there's, you know, so many breaks and so many different parts, and then there's a tempo change, and then there's this one part which is insanely fast and it only comes once, you know, and then never again. And yeah, I think for memorizing this one, Progenitor of the Blaze was also pretty tough. Yeah, these probably in the beginning, like I said, I thought The Autopsy, but it's actually now it's like it's a breeze to play. It's but yeah, the things Ceremony of the Rock, because it's so yeah, so breakish and everything, and yeah, Reckless Souls was also pretty. I mean, they're all yeah, they're not they're all pretty difficult actually.
I can definitely imagine. Being a musician myself, it's hard for me to come up with riffs sometimes. So I'm like,
Which
okay.
instrument do you play? You play guitar?
I play guitar and I do vocals for my band. We're known as
Okay.
Viral Threat.
Okay. Send me a link and I'll check it out.
Well, we don't have any music just yet. I mean, we're still in the process of writing, and we're looking for a bass player.
Oh yeah, that's always the issue that a lot of bands have, especially in technical death metal, because yeah, it's a rare breed, obviously.
Yeah, so it's me on lead and rhythm guitar and lead vocals. Got my friend Alex Ferris on lead and rhythm guitar, and my friend Brandon Gould, he's on drums and backing vocals.
All right. Yeah, whenever you got something up, make sure to send it to me. We're gonna check it out.
I definitely will. Just figured I'd mention that to you because when it comes to riff writing, I'm thinking to myself, you don't really need to be technical as long as you got good riffs and a good beat.
That's the thing.
All that's important.
Totally. And I have made the experience that when you're coming up with riffs and you just, of course, you're just gonna play what comes out of your mind. And I often, when I come up with riff ideas, it's just in my head and it appears, you know. And then I'm trying to translate that, what is in my brain, onto my instrument, and that is sometimes the barrier that is hard to get over, you know. But even if you're like you're trying to write something really, really simple, I always when I'm done with the riff, it's always at least a little bit techy on parts, you know, because that's just the way you enjoy it, and so you can't do something against it. You know, we're not sitting here and trying to write the most technical riffs we can. We just can't help it. I think that's the point.
I can definitely understand that. Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Because you got these bands that are doing sweeping arpeggios, and I'm just like, okay, I don't do the sweep pattern itself. I just go with whatever I hear in my head, and then I just try to play it, and I'm like, okay, one note at a time, you know.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's all it takes.
Yeah, and it's just gonna sound good. I think heaviness is most important. You know, you don't need to be super technical or to be brutal. I think sometimes it can be even an obstacle. You know, if it's too technical, you can kill the heaviness. I mean, to me, like some really, really brutal sludgecore can be way more brutal than a technical death metal or like a really heavy old school death metal riff on 180 BPM. Just blah, blah. This can be way heavier than anything else. Or like bands like, I don't know, 90s hardcore like Marauder or something. This is super brutal and everything, but it's not technical at all. And so it's not about the technicality to make the song punch you in the face. It's about intensity, I would say, and intensity mostly, I guess.
Do you remember the very first instrument that you played?
Yeah. I mean, the very first was a piano, and so it was a pianino was the word that was in my parents' home back then, and they sent me to take piano classes for 5 years or something, or 6 years, and then in the last few years I also started with guitar and bass, like simultaneously, and my first instrument was some horrible Fender Stratocaster copy of a brand I have never ever heard anything before, anything after again. I can remember this thing. I think it's still somewhere in my parents' house, actually, standing around and full of stickers, and the way you do it when you're 12. But yeah, and then my first bass, because I was playing on a rented bass for learning. My first bass, I think I bought it when I was 14, and I still have that one. First bass guitar is this one. It's,
oh, that's
Yamaha.
a beauty.
Yeah, it's. I'm still using this one. This five-string Yamaha. It's a BB5, I think, a BBN5. It's called, and I bought it. Lots of years ago, and it was like It wasn't like super beginner, but something like medium advanced from the price tag. And this bass landed on a lot of records I did, not only playing myself, but also other musicians that used it in the studio, because it just happens to sound incredibly good. I was just lucky when I bought that one. Still in use and still getting recorded to tape.
I was wondering if you wouldn't mind playing one of your favorite riffs from Profanity.
One of my favorite riffs from Profanity. Now,
If
what?
you're able to.
If I'm able to, I'm gonna have a look. I'm gonna take this one. I really like that funky riff in Who Lives Stays. That's because I just converted that one into a slap riff, which is that one. Just the middle part, or from that, I would say the beginning from the song.
This sounds like it's cutting out.
And so far and so on. But yeah, tons of riffs to think about, and coming from nothing now into what else. But I always enjoyed the start from that song. Which ones? I can't recall that one now. We haven't rehearsed in a while, We're in lockdown again now, at least in Austria, not in Germany. They only have like a half lockdown. Yeah, but this song is anyway one of my faves, also to play live.
That's very cool. Now, while you guys been on stage, have you guys ever had any moments that have either been embarrassing or say life-threatening?
Life-threatening? No. There were never any points where I was fearing about my life. There were points when I was feeling embarrassed, but that's easy, when you're a musician, you're fucking up, and it happens, and at the moment you think like everybody saw it, you know, and everybody thought, man, what a douche, what a beginner. But in the end, nobody saw it. Nobody, because you know they just think that's the good thing with our music. They sometimes think it's on purpose. So if we make slight mistakes, we can get away with it way easier than say a doom band. If you're playing like one note for 1 second, that note better be right. But if you're playing a note like only for a nanosecond, then well, nobody's gonna really know if you hit that one. So yeah, I mean, I'm over exaggerating here, of course, but there are these moments when you're doing something wrong, or when you're maybe when you're tripping on stage and whatever. But in the end, nobody cares, you know. So
I can definitely understand that. I had a moment that I had mentioned in my previous interview, maybe have been the interview before that, where I was the vocalist of a death metal band, and this guy in the crowd was asking me for a blowjob. So I told him straight up, I'm like, you can ask somebody else. They live in Endicott, which is a part of New York State. And so he's like, oh, I'll take one now. I'm like, nah, dude. After this show, I walked up to the guy. I said, maybe I should ask your wife the same thing, man. But, you know, I was like pretty much single at the time, so I didn't know how to approach this guy. So I almost got violent, but I said, it's not worth it.
nah, why? You know, you always have people saying stupid shit, or screaming some stupid stuff from the audience and trying to trigger you or something. Sometimes they are just genuinely trying to be funny, you know, and they're not even. It's not even meant to be like mean or an insult or anything. They're just trying to have fun. They are drunk and everything. So to me, that's all cool, you know, no problem with it. Yeah, I can't imagine of a situation where somebody said anything or screamed it onto the stage that I was be really getting angry about. I think it would probably have to be something morally or politically deviant from my views. But still, then, you know, it's not my. I'm not here to play like the kindergarten teacher for these guys. I'm playing my noise on stage, and that's it. And if it's off from the stage and I'm standing in front of the stage and he's still trying to bullshit talk me, then maybe it's something different. But on stage, I just don't care.
Yeah, I've had some incident one time when I lived in Kansas, because that's where I started the one band that I had, Obliterated Soul. And this guy's yelling at me. He's like, you suck. I said, do you think it's really easy? I'd like to see you come up here and play my guitar. Oh, I don't play an instrument, man. Well, then you have no say in the matter.
Yeah. Fortunately, this happens really, really rarely. I mean, even in underground shows, because then most of the people somehow know each other and they're just trying to fuck with each other because of friends and stuff. But like, if you're on stage and somebody's just keeping on shouting, "You guys suck! Oh, fuck off! You suck! We want to see, I don't know, Metallica or whatever." Most of the people, one time or the other, we're gonna say, "Dude, just fuck, shut up, man! You know, we're trying to listen to some music here." So most people just make an ass out of themselves this way anyway.
That's pretty much what a lot of people have been doing lately, it seems.
Well, because it's easy.
Yeah, that's true. Well, Lukas, I've got one last question for you. Do you have any last words for Underground Noise?
Yeah, thanks for having us. Expect us to be back next year after you know what, when everything with touring works out again. We got a couple of shows already confirmed so far, and so we are also working on new material. And I think if everything works out the way it looks, it seems, then next year might be a really, really good year for Profanity, I think. So stay in touch. You can follow us on Instagram, of course, Facebook, and all that nonsense. And on Bandcamp, of course, there you can get basically anything from Profanity on Bandcamp, like merch and or music and stuff. Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to making the next piece of music. I can't tell yet when this is about to happen because we're still at the writing stage. So to be fair, Thomas is, because he's writing the music. And then we're going to return to my studio and make another big heap of brutal death metal for you guys. And I hope you're going to enjoy it as much as you hopefully enjoyed our last one, Fragment of Solace.
Amazing album, like I told you before. I love it.
Thanks a lot. What do you think about the production, by the way?
Amazing. Just downright
Nice.
amazing. I can't put it down, you know. Every time I put in my Discman, people look at me funny. They're like, you still got one of those things? I'm like, yeah, dude, it works. I'd rather listen to it in my headphones than put it on a stereo or say a DVD player or a PlayStation 4, because that way I can hear every element of the music.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I remember when, you know, this is what I was talking about a little earlier. This is that I would call a puerile love for the music, you know, when you got this even a little childish love for this thing that you put it above everything else. And I'm trying to keep that for myself also, because I remember back then, you know, when I was getting like, I don't know, Once Upon the Cross or the latest Leveling Creation album, I would listen to it until I know every song by heart. You know? Only then I would go for the next record I bought. And over the years, you know, you lose that a little bit and you listen to the new album, okay, that's pretty good, okay, and almost forget it, you know. But like really, really enjoying it. I remember when when it came out with The Fine Art of Murder, the Leveling Creation, I was listening to it on my Walkman. This is a tape, a cassette player on the bus, and from the bus stop to my home, I was walking, still listening to it, and walking slower and slower and slower because I was approaching home, but the record still wasn't finished. You know, this is the kind of thing that I want to kind of keep. You know, that's so I can totally relate with what you're saying here.
I appreciate it, but thank you for your time today. It's been great.
Sure, it was a pleasure.